Hello friends, welcome back on Plug to NHS for a very important session. Those who are new here, let us introduce ourselves. So we are a team of IMGs who are doing our best to help future IMGs in their quest to the United Kingdom and further training. Now today, in this video, we are going to discuss a very important content, the Simran station. Now, the Simran station can be daunting and quite challenging to deal sometimes. However, if it's approached correctly, this can be a highly scoring station. So let's see how to systematically and effectively approach our stations and maximize our chances to score better. Let's begin.
An online setup, it's quite difficult to simulate a Simman. So I'm going to try it to the best of my abilities, and for all intents and purposes, you all can assume that all the stations you encounter today are Simman stations, right? So the Simman may speak to you or may not speak to you. At its very basic level, at the simplest level, the approach of Simman scenarios can be divided into two based off on the vitals. If the vitals are stable, you can continue with your normal history taking. However, if the vitals are unstable, you should probably be thinking of the ABCDE approach. Now, if you walk into the room and the Simman can speak to you and the vitals seem stable, consider it like any other station, and you can continue with your normal history taking and then speaking about the investigation management plan and otherwise. However, if the patient seems to be in distress or the vitals seem to be off, that is, they are not within the normal parameters, that is when you should think about initiating the ABCDE approach. Now, the main stumbling block for most candidates is the ABCDE approach, which we will try to explore in details. And sometimes the question may even ask you to speak to the examiner. And a lot of candidates do ask me, what is it that you can speak? I mean, you have done everything that is to be done in the station. So for that, we will see an acronym which I personally feel would help structure the answer better, right? So moving on to the ABCDE approach. Now, what is it? It is a structured approach that is the hallmark of your initial care of medical emergencies. It basically, at its core, facilitates optimal use of time and early recognition of the problems, especially within the so-called golden hour. And the golden hour is basically the hour after the onset of maybe an injury or illness where resuscitation could be the most beneficial. So it is a logical sequence of assessment and interventions, and you should follow the order because the protocol has been designed in such a manner so that you first treat the life-threatening problems and then move on to the next less life-threatening problem. And the aim of the treatment is basically to keep the patient alive and to achieve some clinical improvement. So moving on. So the ABCDE approach is basically airway and oxygenation, breathing and ventilation, circulation, disability, exposure and examination. Now, let's try and understand this via a case study. Now, this is a very simple one that I have shared here. You have been asked to see a patient, John Doe, aged 88, who suddenly has been feeling unwell. So how would you start off a Simman station? You will walk in, and now, of course, here there is no way for me to simulate a Simman, but there you will be seeing a Simman on the bed. There might be equipment around on the table. So try to get a general feeling of your room, because I have seen a lot of candidates go in and miss out on the things around them, which are pretty much clues to help you with this station. You'll have the examiner sitting at one end, and now how do you begin? And this is a general thing we generally follow every day in our hospital lives. So it's basically, this entire session is more like a revision for you all. So walk in, and assume, verbalize. Please do verbalize that I assume I have taken all universal precautions, because you want to ensure your safety as well as the patient's. Introduce yourself, and when you introduce yourself, ask the patient, how are you? Are you all right? See for the response. And this will also help you further on with your ABCD approach, which I will touch upon later. And if you're seeing that the patient, now based on whether the patient is responding, not responding, will help you come up with the next part of the protocol. Excuse yourself for a second. Tell your patient, if you can give me 1 second, I'm just going to quickly have a check of your vitals. Eye the monitor. There is most probably going to be a monitor there. So eye the vitals. Check the patient generally. Have a look. See if there's a wristband that probably tells you maybe this person has some form of allergies, or maybe he has diabetes. You will generally find some wristband attached to the patient. So always make sure to check for that, because that can be a clue again. And verbalize. Again, verbalize the vitals that you see on the screen. Now here, if you can see, the heart rate is 101. It's slightly above the normal baseline, but you can say, I can see that my patient is tachycardic, and I can see he's maintaining his saturations with saturations being 99. So just verbalize, of course, for your examiner's benefit, but also for your benefit. Generally, the ABCD approach is carried out with other team members in the room. So when you're verbalizing, everyone is kept in the loop. So that is also one of the other reasons why I'm asking you to verbalize. So once you have done that, you've taken your universal precautions, you've introduced yourself, you have elicited a response probably, or maybe not. And once you have verbalized, you will now start with the approach. Now, if the patient speaks, that means his airway is patent. He is breathing and he has brain perfusion. How do I know he has brain perfusion? Because he probably doesn't have altered consciousness. Sometimes the patient may have altered consciousness. So that is also another clue for you that there is some underlying hypoxia occurring, right? If he is patent, well and good. If the airway is patent, well and good. However, if the patient is not speaking and he's just making sounds, or probably there seems to be some kind of airway obstruction, then the interventions that you should be ideally doing, and which you should verbalize, please just don't do them on the SIMMAT. Please do verbalize for the benefit of the examiner. You will do a head tilt, chin lift, and jaw thrust. This will open up the airway. Further on, you can inspect the mouth cavity. So you are now going to check for any secretions, blood, maybe some vomitus or foreign bodies. So you can either suction the secretions, or you can remove the foreign body using a Mager's forceps. Either ways, you're supposed to verbalize based on what are your findings. Once you are assured that the airway is patent, it is always good to provide your patient with oxygen. Because sometimes on initial assessment, airway may seem patent, but it may get jeopardized later. Because if the patient does have depressed consciousness later, that itself can also lead to airway obstruction. So it's always safe to initiate high flow oxygen, 15 liters per minute, via a non-rebreather mask. However, you should also verbalize that this I will do based on after having ruled out smoker's cough. Because in patients of COPD, they generally tend to be carbon dioxide retainers. So you cannot give them high flow oxygen. So you will provide them with 4 liters of O2 per minute by a Venturi mask. Again, verbalize this. You can aim the saturations between 88 to 92% in COPD patients, and later on you titrate it based on the ABG. Now this is your airway. One of the most important things about this entire algorithm is every time you do an intervention, please do verbalize and actually do this. Please do verbalize that you will reassess after every intervention. Now, within the confines of the exam and the time limit, you may not be able to reassess, but do verbalize it. Right? So, moving on, now that we've completed airway, moving on to breathing. Now, in breathing, you need to look, listen, and feel for the general signs of respiratory distress. Now, respiratory distress can become quite evident based on the usage of accessory muscles, maybe abdominal breathing. The patient may be having, again, maybe making noises. He may be having a rattling chest, or he may have a wheeze. Then, of course, you can look for cyanosis. You can look for tracheal deviation, because if there is tracheal deviation, there is probably a mediastinal shift, which could be due to a pneumothorax, which is a life-threatening emergency that you should be able to manage at this stage of the ABCD approach. Also, please perform and verbalize about chest examination. You will inspect the patient. You will look for any chest deformities, any injuries. You will palpate. You will percuss. On percussion, sometimes there might be hyperresonance, which can again be indicative of pneumothorax. There might be pleural fluid within the cavity, so there will be dullness on percussion. Then auscultate for the wheeze. Now here, how will you measure? Again, respiratory rate is very important here. So 12 to 20 is per minute is the normal. So this is what you're looking for. You will also check for saturations. If the patient has shortness of breath, maybe you can prop him up. And here, based on whatever are your findings, you will treat the underlying cause. So if you have tension pneumothorax, you will probably do a needle decompression. If it is asthma, you will again start initiating the treatment. Anaphylaxis, again initiate the treatment. And the further adjuncts you can use here is your ABG. Chest X-ray may or may not need to be verbalized. That is based on the case and the scenario. Again, reassess after every intervention. Now going to circulation. Hypovolemia is the most common cause of shock. So here you have to start looking at probably the color of the hands, the digits, see if they are blue or pink. It will give you some idea about skin perfusion. You can also check for temperature by assessing the limbs, whether they are cool to touch or warm. Then again, you can look for JVP. You can auscultate for heart sounds. Check all the peripheral pulses, because if there's a bounding pulse, there's a chance it might be sepsis. Also assess the heart rate, which will be again on the monitor, the BP. Now, whenever you notice that there is something wrong with the vitals, that is the point when you have assessed them, you will perform an intervention. So suppose the patient has hypotension. This is the point where you will now verbalize and say that I will put in 2 large IV bore cannulas, maybe 14G, 16G, because the shorter and the larger bore ones enable the highest flow of fluid. You will also look for any visible signs of hemorrhage. If it is there, you will stop the bleed by putting direct pressure on it. Fluid challenge can be given to the patient, where you can give 500 ml of warm crystalloid bolus over less than 15 minutes. And if someone is a known case of, if they have cardiac failure and they are a known case, then you'll probably start off with 250 ml. Basically, you have to target and make sure your BP is around or above 100 millimeter of Hg, the systolic BP, that is. The other adjuncts you can use here are ECG. You can ask for a 12-lead ECG to try and understand what else can be the problem here. Again, all of this is based on the situation and the case. Suppose it's a patient of sepsis, then you're going to start asking for blood tests or any other scenario that is. And maybe the patient has sepsis and you want to monitor their fluid balance. So you can again talk about catheterizing the patient here for input-output monitoring. In case there is a scenario where the patient has trauma, then you can probably even do a FAST. That is your focused assessment with sonography for trauma, where you are looking at the right upper quadrant, left upper quadrant, suprasubxiphoid pericardial sac for collection of blood. So this will also further give you your diagnosis. Again, all of this is based on the situation. And at the end of it all, once you have made sure that all your vitals are stable, you will reassess after every intervention. Moving on to disability. Now, disability is the level of consciousness that you have to look for here. And this can be rapidly assessed by AVPU method or by GCS, depending on what you're comfortable with and what exactly is happening there. AVPU is whether the patient is alert, whether he's responsive to voice or to pain, or maybe he's unresponsive. You'll also look at the pupils, because in opioid toxicity you can find changes. So you're looking for the asymmetry, you're looking for reaction to light. You can assess the temperature here, and you can also assess for neck stiffness, because meningitis can present, and this might be a clue for you to get to that. Here you have to remember one thing, and this is the most important one. Do not forget to check for glucose, because again, hypoglycemia is a life-threatening emergency. Decreased level of consciousness due to decreased blood glucose can be corrected quickly, either by oral or infused glucose, and that should be done here. Also, you may provide your patient with analgesia, again based on the situation. Then again, reassess after every intervention, and going on to the last one, that is exposure. Now you have to expose your patient and do a complete head-to-toe examination. And you can also do a focused examination based on what the scenario is. Now here you look for rashes. There's a good chance you might find a non-blanching rash, which is indicative of meningitis, or you may find some bleeds, any injuries, again, something that you may have missed out earlier. Here you can manage all your abnormal findings. Now you have to ensure the respect of your patient, the dignity of your patient, and also prevent hypothermia. So please do cover your patient, and that will help you in minimizing the heat loss. At the end of this, reassess again after every intervention. And now you have successfully completed your ABCDE approach. Now suppose while you are assessing the circulation, you notice that the saturations have gone down. You should again go back to the airway and start reassessing from there. At no point in time can you just continue like that. If you find any abnormality, please go back to A and then come down to E. Right? So once you have all your vitals stabilized, now you can take full clinical history, whether if the patient's awake, alert, you can take it from the patient, from relatives or friends, or if there's your nurse colleague over there. Review the notes. There may be notes present in the room. You can review, and you can try and find out what else may have happened that has led to the situation. Check for medications, what is being prescribed. Look at the lab investigations, radiological investigations, and now consider the definitive treatment plan for this patient, because by now you would have had a diagnosis in mind. Okay. Now moving on. So sometimes the question might ask you of, that at the 2 minutes, well, please speak to your examiner. So how do you exactly speak? Now, this is a common handover tool that has been developed to improve upon patient safety by facilitating the communication of patient-specific information. This tool, I personally feel, can actually help you in having a very structured approach to talking to your examiner, so you can have all your pertinent information in one place. Starting off with situation. Now, situation is what was happening, what was the situation. So, for example, I can say Mr. X aged so and so had sudden onset of breathlessness. So you have given the station the exact problem that was there in the station at the beginning. Then you can go to background. Background here is clinical background pertinent to that situation. So you can probably talk about the event history. You can say, you have already mentioned in the situation that this has happened. He had sudden onset of breathlessness. Now in background, you can speak about how you performed the A to E assessment and what were the vitals, what were the interventions you have performed. And in case you have already taken some history, and you can talk about that history in a simple manner here. You can describe all of this. Then going to the assessment, again, the problem and intervention. So you can probably talk about the response to your interventions that the patient had. You can talk about your diagnosis, and you can also probably talk a little bit about what could be done at that very point in time. The next would be recommendations. So you can talk about further management plan, interventions needed. You should also mention about escalating to a senior, because something has happened here that was quite serious. Now you have, of course, saved the patient's life in that moment, but you need to escalate to your senior to ensure patient safety. So in this structured manner, you can complete the scenario in the given time limit. The A to E order is performed sequentially to make sure that you avoid skipping any crucial steps, and I would recommend you all follow that. Now that I have gone through the A to E approach and a general approach to CMAN stations, we will now start with the mock section. But yes, before that, your take home message. This is in very brief of what you should be doing in an A to E approach. And if anyone would like to have a further idea of the assessment and treatments we generally do, this is just a very generalized idea of the entire situation.